Hey, good day. This is Greg Lewis, City Manager here in Lebanon. Welcome to Lebanon in Depth. We're very happy. I'm just very happy today. We begin our second show of the year. We're looking forward to this year. This is an exciting year, and there's been a lot of good developments in our police department. And with me today, I have our police chief, and then we have our deputy police chief. And so I am just delighted to have them here today. Gary Smith and Phil Roberts are just a blessing for us here in our community to have them on board and willing to take on leadership positions. So I'm just going to open up, Gary. I know last year you and I kind of got together and you put the biggest smile on my face ever by the fact you said, well, Greg, I'll consider do this police chief job thing. And at the time, you and I both are kind of from the same era in many ways in our lives, coming up through things like Vietnam War and Vietnam era, and then coming into our respective professions and stuff. So we had a lot of common ground. When you said you'd be willing to serve a little more tour of duty, it's kind of like the guys in Nam, where I just remember, well, you're going to extend your tour of duty. Oh yeah, you are. Okay, let's do it.
Yes. Let's
do one more year. So I was pleased you said that, but why did you, Gary, you've been our deputy police chief, and you've held about every job, I think, in the whole department.
I have.
Your career.
Yeah.
Why don't you share with the public a little bit about how you got into the Lebanon Police Department and then how you came up through here, kind of long story short.
Long story short, all my life I wanted to be a police officer. When I got out of the military in 1974, there were a lot of veterans getting into the business at the time, and it wasn't so open. And I found other things to get involved with, and I had my family and got involved with different careers. I worked for a supermarket for many years in management, and I went to work for a short time with the federal government in the post office. I found an opportunity at one point to become a police officer when I was 35 years old. Lebanon Police Department had an opening. We lived in Massachusetts at the time, and our children were very small, and I saw it as an opportunity to move to a smaller community, maybe better for our kids,
That's neat.
So we took the chance, and I came up and tested. That was 1987. Again, long story short, here I am today. I worked my way through the ranks. Like you said, I've held pretty much every position in the department at one time or another, some shorter, others longer.
Yeah.
And I worked for several years with Jim Alexander as his deputy chief, as you mentioned,
yeah.
And I'm proud to have this opportunity, Greg. Thank you.
Well, I'm proud that you're able to do this. I mean, I like it that we both kind of found our way here in life. I really enjoy being a city manager, and you really enjoy being a police officer and a police leader. You very much enjoy being around your police officers, our force, and I very much enjoy being around people like you in the police force we have, and I couldn't be prouder than to have be a city manager with our police department the way they are. So let's turn to Phil a little bit. Sure. Phil, you are now our new deputy police chief.
I am.
And so let's, as you do long story short, again, tell us a little bit how you came into the Lebanon Police Department area and how you got up and what were you doing, and then during their time, and then kind of now how do you feel about becoming our deputy police chief?
Yeah, well, I'm from, I was actually born in Lebanon, so
you're a native.
I'm a native, although I live on the other side of the river now. But I grew up right here in the Upper Valley and started my career as a police officer at the age of 19, right out of high school in the state of Vermont. And then in the state of New Hampshire, you got to be 21 to become full-time. So as soon as I became 21, I put in my application for the city of Lebanon because I knew I wanted to live here. I liked the area. I grew up here. I didn't want to go to a big, city or anything. Wanted to just stay here and have a family one day. So I applied, got in on my first try back in 2000, and quickly kind of fell into some positions of promotion that worked for me. I got promoted to corporal within 2 years, and then sergeant 4 or 5 years after that. And 2007, I made lieutenant, where I ran the patrol division for a while as a patrol lieutenant, and most recently I spent the last few years running the detective division with the felony cases. And this position came open several months ago, and I gave it thought. I'd been there 14 years. I'm going to be there probably another 14 years, and I wanted to be able to get in a position to, shape the future.
That's really great, And what I love about both of you is the fact that you really understand our system because you came through it. And I have had the opportunity to be associated with quite a few police departments and sheriff's departments in my time as a manager. I was, when I was in city attorney days, I was attorney for the things like the Moorhead, Minnesota Police Department, which is very enjoyable for me to work with them out there. And then I was the attorney. I was the city attorney. I had police departments also in places like Lakeville, Minnesota, and so as a city attorney, I enjoyed very much being the attorney for police departments. And then when I became manager, then of course my first managers were switching to the county level, where I was county manager, and I got to work with county sheriffs, some very professional county sheriffs that I worked with for a period of time for altogether the 27 years. And while being a county manager, I and the sheriffs became partners with the police chiefs in the towns and cities in those counties. We got relationships, and so I've seen a lot of police forces at work and a lot of police chiefs at work, and I think I hold none of them in higher esteem than I do Lebanon Police Department.
Thank you.
So I just compliment them and all our officers who are in the field. And I love the fact we're building our leadership through our existing ranks. Those people are dedicated enough to stay with us. So I think that's going to be one of our continuing philosophies, is to build our department from within, to give everybody in our department opportunities for taking steps to go and look and explore roles with us and different roles and leadership opportunities, so that we're all leaders in many ways, and I think we have a niche for every one of our officers to find their niche where whatever they find best in terms of the life of a police officer. So I'm very pleased with our developments, the way we approach this whole thing. It kind of worked its way through. We went through national searches. We saw everybody out there. We interviewed people, and we came home. So that's where we're at. We're at home, and that's really nifty. Now, I think we should get into a little bit about what our police department is doing today, what are issues that our department tackles, and what kind of the ongoing challenges that we have and the opportunities we have as our police department, and kind of bring the public into a window into our police department as we are doing today. And after that, we'll talk a little bit about future, maybe where we're going. So, Gary, you want to start out, and we'll
Sure.
get Phil to kick in on some of the ideas of what we're doing right now.
Challenges, I think, is the most important thing right now that we're looking at. Is we're that hub community, we're people, that influx of people, and the things that we deal with every day. The bulk of what we deal with are from people outside our community, which was interesting to me when I first moved here.
Mm-hmm.
It has never really changed.
I've never been in a city like this before. All the other places I've been, you'd have a metro area, and then with the population you were serving was fairly stable. You had some transient population, but generally you were pretty much your whole population were people that live here.
Right.
Here we have a daytime population. We have a nighttime population.
Yes.
It's really something that I'm yet to figure out exactly what the right paradigm is for that kind of flow of human beings back and forth in a city.
Yes. I find it seems like people are coming here from further and further away, in a lot of cases to commit crime and go back to where they came from, which is, again, a huge challenge for us to resolve some of these things. We're working hard, to solve the crimes that are being committed, and I think we're doing a heck of a job half through the years. But we spent so much time on this sort of thing and our department is only so big. We've kind of forgotten the neighborhoods. We've forgotten that close closeness that the police used to have years ago. And we're trying to regain that. And as you know, our neighborhood initiative, we're trying to get the officers out of the cars more, to meet the people, because the people are our eyes. You know, they can help us tremendously and have helped us tremendously in solving a lot of these crimes. They see things during the day and during the evening that it would be impossible for us to see. They know things are out of sorts in their neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a real good approach, I think, that you all are taking. As we try to get back into the neighborhoods, because I used to, one of the common rhymes was, you see something, say something. But if people don't know somebody, they don't know quite who to say it to. And the comfortability of it, to see something and say something, oh, I don't know how to say anything. It should come second nature. You see something, say something, and then as these community policing, as we develop and go back to the future, yes. and that will people's comfort level is, to say something to an officer that's in the neighborhood, to say something anytime you see an officer. If you see something, say something, officer. Or whether we have special units where we have our bike units, and then we'd have our resource officers, the students saying something to them, and somebody sees something to the bike people, say something to the patrol officers, kind of checking out particular corridors. We got these corridors that just seem really challenging. I don't envy the officer's job in dealing with our corridors sometimes. It just seems like we have a lot of traffic at certain times, and it seems pretty rugged. And
yes.
Then I've been noticing some of the stuff when we get some crime, it seems like it's almost like somebody comes off the interstate and does something and then gets back on and goes.
That's exactly what happens in
I don't know if that's true or not.
Now. It is true. We've got a heck of a bunch of guys in our department that are working hard, like I say, to get closer to people that can give us that information, that can help us in that way. It's tough for people a lot of people, I should say,
yes.
to approach officers, and that's something we've got to overcome. We need to keep reaching out and let people know, we're the same as everybody else. We're no different. Only our job is different, is what.
Yeah, I don't think we don't need barriers. For
yes.
you, Phil, how do you feel about this? You've been doing the detective work.
I've been
with your
off the road
unit
for a few years. What you and the chief were just discussing about the outside population, I would venture to guess that it's 70 or 80% of our crime that occurs up and down the 12A corridor is out of state, out of Lebanon. So that does tie up our resources. But my big thing when I interviewed for this job was what I've been seeing over the last handful of years is all the technology that we have now that's standard in the police service. From the computers in the cars and the radios and everything, doesn't make the officer get out as much as they used to. And I think it's like the chief said, we've got to start getting out, because before we had all that stuff, I see the difference of when I was out 10 years ago in the neighborhoods, walking on Main Street and talking to the business owners as they leave, it makes a big difference, and they're more apt to say something if they see you 2 or 3 times a week and they're comfortable with you. Not everyone's comfortable walking up to a squad car with all those gadgets that they see and the a mysterious officer in this intimidating uniform to them if they're not used to it. So if you get out, you have that contact, people become more open to share info with you or their issues.
It feels more natural.
Right.
Because that's when I'm just working with a lot of groups of people. The place in which you can do the engagement where you actually interface with people. Because like in those city halls, sometimes I feel like it gets a little courtroomy, feels a little atmospheric, that, there are the judges and here's the, you have to be, but that's why I've been liking the walkabouts.
Yes.
Where I can walk about a neighborhood on a city topic, and so somebody can come out and walk with us, and that's pretty human, walking with somebody down the street. Or if they come out on the lawn and chat us up and share what their perspective on whatever the particular topic is on the walkabouts. So I like that. I also like going out into neighborhood spaces that people might feel comfortable in being in, whether it's a farmer's market space or whether it's in a community room in a library. That seems non-threatening. That there's not a lot of barriers in the community room over there at the Kilton, and then sometimes just go into some of the motels. The hotels, where I go into some of their broader meeting rooms and just kind of keep it fairly bare and have some tables by which people can walk around and look at exhibits and talk to people. So the principles of people being able to have comfort level of having officers on the street or on a bike or in a situation where our school, down a school hallway, anytime we can do that. Or I know, Chief, you've come to our walkabouts and you come to our community meetings, and I look forward to Phil being there likewise. And I think that even if it's not a police business, you know, if they see you at any of these events, as they do now, they sit to the familiarity thing, like you were saying, Phil. It's something you get comfortable with, and you don't feel a barrier between.
It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
for them.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Greg, it's a little off subject, but you know, your Citizens Academy, as you mentioned, I've been.
That was fun. The police department did a swell job. We got everyone that participated swell.
Yes, the walkabouts, the contacts that I've had with people through those functions have been tremendous. I've enjoyed it. I don't know how the people feel, but I've enjoyed it.
We've been really getting good feedback from them. You know, people have said this verbally, and sometimes they'll fill out a survey or something and let us know how they think. And you know, the Leb Alert system, the Ask Leb system, these are technology areas, but we want to combine our use of technology with a personal connection. So we do both. We make it, because some of my, you know, my 3 children now, 20-somethings, or 130 now, they're really adept at the smartphones, you know, and the pads and all that. They just pull it up and start doing this stuff. And so we need to have that available for them for sure, but we also need the personal contact, because I think the personal relationship means a lot.
Yes.
A lot to people. Other things that we should mention, current police department operations that we should bring home to the public?
Well, I think it's important to know that you know, we're working to fill our positions now with my promotion and Phil's promotion to deputy chief. We have some vacancies that we need to backfill. We've got some great people. I'm not concerned over it. The tough part is picking who's going to fill those positions.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's a good place to work, and I hope you know, and I think the recognition of that is good, and we'll get people willing to come. Because I like our different situations where our captains and our lieutenants and our sergeants, you know, having been a sergeant type myself, and you know how important sergeants are,
yes.
And so our captains, lieutenants, and sergeants, and then just our officers, and especially our new people. I always like a little mix of, you know, people that, you know, really want to come and have that enthusiasm, and they'll go through the whole experience like we all go through.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky with maintaining personnel over the years. We've got, you know, a huge amount of people that have been here for long periods of time. In the past, you know, when the economy was more lucrative, you know, officers were moving around a lot. Since again, and I don't want to, you know, pump Jimmy Alexander up, but since he took over as chief, things you know, was kind of settled down, and we maintained personnel for a lot of years. So we've got a lot of experience now, and we're getting some new people in as well. You know, through attrition, and it's awesome. I think the department's great. I do.
It is. I've been getting a lot of positive comments about how well we manage in the police department. The technology now, because the technology is both voice and data. It's our communication center, and then, like you were saying, Phil, our vehicles are virtual computers themselves, because there's so much technology in our squad cars. On one hand, that's intimidating, like you said. On the other hand, we have some really wonderful tools, and the police department has been one of the best, if not probably the best, in dealing with the management of the technology and deployment in the purpose of mission of the police department. So that's a real kudos to all the people that are involved in managing that sector in our squads and in our communication center with our dispatchers.
Yes.
And so that's a pretty nifty thing for us.
Absolutely.
Real strength. We ought to talk a little bit about kind of the future here, maybe the short term and maybe the long term. You know, the short term is usually, you know, the next year ahead. We got 2014 ahead. We're beginning of the year. We did get approval of the police department budget as as recommended and as submitted without change. So we're happy about that. And we're going to put in new consoles.
In the dispatch,
in the dispatch area,
Yes.
which is a nifty thing, because maybe a little bit about why we're doing that, and we're moving forward on changing out our consoles.
Well, you know, I think that not only will the system be more efficient, the important part is that the equipment that we had, well, computer equipment in general, ages so quickly. As you know, becomes antiquated in a matter of years.
It changes fast.
Yes. I believe the life expectancy of the equipment that we had was 10 years. And we're there. There's so many changes that have occurred through the years. We have massive amounts of equipment that now can be, I mean, literally shrunk down to the size of you know, of a regular computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, we have towers that will go away. You know, cards, they call them, the electronic cards. That
So actually, we have less space being utilized, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely.
With the new models that are
yes,
coming out.
yes. So again, it will obviously take away or give us back a lot of space.
Yeah, yeah.
At the same time, create a more efficient system for us and bring us up to date. You know, the technology is tremendous.
That's
Yeah.
In terms of other developments in 2014 in that we kind of have in our lineup this year.
I think you know, again, our program to get back into the neighborhoods is really something that we're going to focus on. We have to adjust to the change with me becoming chief. So it's a matter now of together developing a program that'll work for the community as well as us. So we'll be doing a lot of forums, you know, to try to reach out to the public to see what it is they want.
That's going to be nifty. You know, I know when you sent me this card you developed, that like the robbery card, and like one of your officers came over and provided training into City Hall.
Yes.
A while back.
Yes.
About how to behave in situations that might unfortunately come up. And I just, you know, those use of cards saying here's certain kinds of things, because most of us never ever had that happen to us, and when it happens to us, it's kind of like, what do we do? Where do we go with this? I mean, how do I behave? Am I a hero now, or am I, you know, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, so those are kind of interesting things where you put out some of this information with citizens, with employees of the city hall, with other employees. I know banks, you've helped them, and in terms of their employees, but just any kind of things you're doing. And then you put it in these little cards, which is pretty cool.
We're trying again, you know, to come up with different ideas to make the public not only more aware, more educated, but again, more comfortable with us. You know, it's something that we will continue to do. It's something that we'll work hard to get accomplished.
Yeah.
And you know, once again, the entire department's bought into it, so that's
nice.
Yeah.
And one of your canines retired.
Cody is retired, yes.
And then another canine has come on board.
Briggs.
So now we're back to our two canine.
Yes.
And we have officer and their canine in our canine.
That unit's
operation.
been a huge benefit to us.
I know I've seen it. I've seen it in some demonstrations by the canines, and I think that's a wow factor. There's a lot of different things, and I think that the presence of the bike officers is a very interesting thing.
Been a great unit to reach out to the public, much closer on the bike. You know, you don't expect to see an officer coming up on a bike.
Well, with the idea that there's supposed to be a multimodal system in the community where you have places for people to walk, maybe more connectivity and walking, and then maybe more connectivity on the biking as we work on trying to figure out things. I know I was at a meeting yesterday where a topic brought up. There's been a study done by some Dartmouth students on our behalf on a bike share arrangement.
Yes. Yep.
So if you see more people on bikes and stuff like that, and then this constant problem with the traffic, where the traffic bollocks up, and we were trying to figure out some solutions. We had a good conversation about rideshare yesterday, because it's just if we could reduce the number of vehicles on our corridors, and especially at those junctures where things just kind of can just bog down at certain times.
Yes.
That would be very helpful. And so it's interesting, all the quandaries about public safety, you know, on our streets and in vehicles seem quite, they always seem so, sometimes somebody said vehicles are a deadly weapon because they have so much capacity for doing damage.
Yeah.
And I know our officers out there trying to, probably an unpopular thing is our patrols trying to keep the people in compliance and to kind of the pattern of behaviors that are safe on our streets.
You know, when I came here, Route 12A was the nightmare. We had many complaints about Route 12A. Those complaints we still get some. It's a busy place down there. But you know, the complaints have dropped off as compared to the 120 corridor now. We get many frustrated motorists with the traffic out there, and we're constantly trying to keep up with the complaints and dealing with them. And
it's like a perfect storm sometimes, where
yes.
all the migration of the employees who are coming into the area for work purposes are coming from quite a few distances, and they come in off the interstate and they just bog right down into our series of lights, and how and that certain things happen at certain times,
yeah.
and they seem to be some perfect collation of these happening at once, whether you're going into high school to drop off your student, or whether you're going to work, or whether you're going to the hospital, or whether you're going if they're moving back and forth between Hanover and Lebanon. And it's, you know, a connectivity thing that you really have to be concerned about for transportation planning for us, and then for you, enforcement, and trying to help the situation. Other areas now in the future that we should be looking at from either your or Phil's your perspective. Anything, Phil, that you think it's kind of as you get your feet wet, you're looking at probably a whole lot of things. I know I have whole things running through my mind if I were in your situation. But just some thoughts you have on future things that that's out there in the police world. We'll see, either good or bad, I guess. we'll see good or bad, probably.
Well, as you know from the news and the reports, we do seem to be getting busier. We've had our first bank robbery, I think, in a dozen years in the last couple of months, which could be scary to some. So at the same time as we're focusing on getting back into communities and out of the car, we still have to have that enforcement and that proactive approach to our jobs too, and try to prevent some of these things from happening, like the bank robberies and all the thefts that come with the drug issues that we're seeing that every community around is dealing with. So just trying to balance those out at the same time, and just kind of get my feet wet in this new position and learn on the fly.
Well, yeah, and I look forward as you join Chief and work at this together, Gary. I often wonder about, we used to have this thing, and when I lived as a city attorney out in Minnesota on Moorhead and Fargo area, the interstate that was out there came from Texas right up into Canada. And so there was quite a stream of people coming up through that area.
Yes.
And it was law enforcement thinking and planning at the time that was really like just a conduit for persons coming into the United States through Texas and then out through Canada, or vice versa. And here we're, as I rode the Dartmouth coach to New York City the last weekend here to take in the NBA basketball game, I was mentioning it before we got on the air, is that I watched how easy it was to go, relatively easy to go from here down to New York City. And I hadn't ridden a bus ever from here down there. Usually if I was going to New York City in my past, I haven't been there recently, but I'd probably be flying in or something. But riding a bus, it just seemed very apparent how easy it was to move from here. And then, my wife and I took a trip up to Quebec City because we had heard there was an ancient old city of interest, and so we went up there. It was very easy to get into Quebec, and so it seems like a very straight shot kind of deal between two. And then Montreal's on the other side, and we've been in Montreal too. Yep. And so we have metro areas and certainly a diverse population on both ends, and we're right in the middle.
Absolutely.
And so it's an interesting thing about what that means to us from, from our demographics and statistics, and whether there's patterns to this or not, or whether it's just sporadic, or it is an interesting flow. I know they were doing some real analysis in the Midwest on the interstate that was connecting, and it was 20, I believe it was 25, I can't remember, I-25, I think, that went down to Texas and went to Canada and dropped off in Minnesota. It was an interesting pattern.
You know, when I first came here, it was commonly called a flatlander.
Oh.
You don't hear that much anymore because that corridor that people have been traveling through. The hospital came to Lebanon, obviously brought a lot of employees from different areas, and people are from all over now here. You know, it's rare to find somebody that's actually grown up in the area. You know,
it is a diversifying population. Now, our last few, probably last 30 seconds or so, if we wanted to provide or share some advice to citizens how best to work with their police department, and I guess vice versa, how best we should work with them, what would the advice be, Gary, in your thinking?
Don't hesitate to call us. Don't hesitate to talk to our officers. We're there for you. It's what we do. It helps us if we can get the information that you may have. It doesn't hurt us if you have information that isn't very important, but just to take that few minutes to meet an officer and talk to them, you may be helping out tremendously. And once again, our officers are happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk for a few minutes at any time.
Well, we'll leave the note today. You know, I hope all you in the community get a feel from when we talk with Gary and Phil that our force, while it's there to serve and protect you, is also there to have, to really respect and listen to you, and that do follow the advice the chief has provided you about feel comfortable in talking to our officers, Gary and Phil in their leadership positions, but any of our officers. They're the kind of people that you should feel that, boy, they're right in your corner. They'll help you. They'll process things. Collectively, they have a lot of experience and wisdom, and they can figure it out. All you need to do is to communicate with them, and they'll communicate with you. And we're trying to take the foot forward, so we're once again putting our hands out in the neighborhood for neighborhood policing and building relationships between our police and our community. Thank you today. Look forward to here, 2014. I am very excited about the year, and it'll be the best one we've had in Lebanon, I am sure. And look forward to everyone. And be safe out there, and drive carefully, and don't speed. Take care of yourselves. Bye.